Hey guys, it's Mr. Antoon here. Today we are going to be going over civil rights. So chapter 5 is going to be the start of it for this week. We're going to probably finish it this week. Let me go ahead and share. Here we go for our screen. So again, Monday or Tuesday, civil rights. So let's kind of talk about some housekeeping stuff. I'm going to talk about the online discussion, which is kind of going to be in place of journals, but that's not due until the 17th. Today we're going to go over chapter 4 or chapter 5, civil rights. And then we'll do our SCOTUS presentations. Your work for the week is Chapter 5 Study Guide due on Google Classroom. And then the quiz will happen. That'll probably be an optional one by Friday as well. The online discussion will be by next Friday, the following Friday. And then the exam itself, probably not going to happen, but we'll do some practice probably with the FRQ. Okay. Here is the Chapter 5 material from Google Classrooms for a look for something like this. These two Google Classroom or slide presentations are going to be evolving. I'm still working on those as we speak, so they could change, but you guys will see, it should say April 8th and 9th here. I don't know why it's not updating, and April 6th and 7th, that's the first one. And then these docs that you're seeing here will be the docs for the pacing calendar over here, and then the civil rights, kind of a step-by-step through process. Let me see if I can pull those up here. So here's the step-by-step process. I'm sorry, the pacing calendar. As you can see here, Chapter 5 vocab, the SCOTUS quiz stuff, meaning the SCOTUS cases stuff, as well as the PowerPoint notes I'll put up here for the entire chapter. As you guys can see, we're progressing through this unit, and that's going to kind of lead you through with all the learning targets that we'll go over. The other one will be the pacing calendar, and as you see here, we're only set up for this week. Beyond is kind of out there because we're done with content after Chapter 5, so I have to figure out what's happening there. So in terms of what's going to happen in class going forward, we're going to start out with Chapter 5.
Let me have those front seats. Y'all better make it light on yourselves and let me have those seats. Are you gonna move? No.
I can't imagine that moment, guys, just the fact that she's standing up for this, and it was all planned to get arrested in Montgomery. The Montgomery bus boycott started this. Again, today it's weird. Not many people want to sit near the front of the bus. It's always to the back. So it was kind of reversed in the 1950s. But again, that kind of started the movement. So my question is, have you guys ever been discriminated against? You can only know this yourself as a female, as a LGBT, as a guy, as somebody who has a minority in terms of based on your color of your skin. I, as a Middle Eastern, to some extent, have been discriminated against. But again, as a man, really not as much as a lot of the other groups that are out there. But again, how has this term "all men created equal" changed since the founding of our country? And that's the idea from the Declaration of Independence. How has it changed our racial, gender, sexuality, age, or even disability, and how we look at things? And what today could compare to what Rosa Parks did back then in the 1950s? What's the lightning rod, situation or case or event that can compare to what Rosa Parks did? Could it be the Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem? As you can see here, he was sitting at first, and a Marine who had no legs was standing during the national anthem. So this is a very patriotic thing in sports. And you could see he changed it to a kneeling. And again, he did that to speak out against discrimination against minorities. And you could see what Trump had tweeted. If NFL fans refuse to go to games until players stop disrespecting our flag and country, you will see change take place fast. Fire or suspend. Well, it's illegal of anybody in the government to tell somebody in a private industry to fire or suspend. But again, Trump is an anomaly with that situation. You can see again, Jerry Jones, for your beloved Cowboys, kneeling with his team. Again, I don't know if you guys know the backstory, but Trump tried to buy an NFL team in the 80s and 90s, and they said, no way do we want Trump as an owner. So again, you could see how he hates the NFL in terms of that. But again, there's the Patriots doing that. I don't see Tom Brady in that situation. But again, it was a lot of the minorities that were kneeling. And then Trump followed up with this tweet. Wouldn't that be great if kneelers would meet in the White House to discuss why they are protesting? I don't agree with their protest, but I understand that they have that right. Let's try to fix this together. Well, I have to be honest with this. This is a fake tweet that I was allowed to make. I wish that he would have said this. This is what leadership should look like, in the fact that why are you holding them in a negative outlook? They're complaining for a certain reason. Maybe if he got together and said, let's figure this out. But again, that's not Trump's leadership style. So it's something to think about as we move forward with this chapter 5, guys. Okay, so again, some cartoons to look at. Try to figure out the main idea. We might talk about these in class. I'll give you a second to look through here. The arc of history in terms of voting. I have a dream speech, anniversary of that speech. Again, why does he still have the shackle on his hand or on his wrist? What is this one stating about? That's what Rehnquist, a former Chief Justice. What does it tell you about equal protection? And then even the GOP, you can see that elephant saying abort the 14th Amendment. They are pro-choice for aborting it. And what were they aborting? We'll talk about that later in class. So here are our objectives for today. We're going to look at the standards of review very quickly at the end of class. I want to reiterate to you what's the difference between these two. I'm not going to go through this list. You can pause this video at any time and look through this. But it's the idea that individuals for civil liberties, the Bill of Rights, versus groups of people, the 14th Amendment changed that. And you can see some of the stuff there. So what's the conception of equality? What does it mean? Well, it doesn't mean sameness. It doesn't mean we're clones. It doesn't mean, look at Willy Wonka, you know, either that one or whichever one you guys liked. I like the older movie better. But you could see they're still freaky, creepy in that sense. But it's not about being same. It's not equal rewards. We're not in a socialist society. It's about equality of opportunity, inalienable rights under the law. That's what we're looking at as we progress through this. So let's look at the 14th Amendment one more time. It says you cannot deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process, nor deny that person within jurisdiction of equal protection of the laws. It's the only place equal shows up in the entire Constitution. And you could see the issue we have with immigration. Do we treat them equally when they come into our country? And look, up to 2660, it projects 18% of, or 19% will be coming in from foreign countries. Our immigration projections as we look forward here. And Trump is the one who's already talked about getting rid of part of the 14th Amendment about people who are naturalized or born in the country. If an immigrant comes in from out of country and has their child in our hospitals, they don't pay any taxes. And that child is now a citizen. And that's the anchor baby idea of their whole family coming over because we have a US citizen. Trump cannot override an amendment with an executive order. And that was discussed by Trump. And again, the media came out here and fact-checked him with that. So is discrimination legal in our country? Yes, it is, guys, but not all types of it. Look at some of the ones that we can limit on. We can discriminate based on age. There's the drinking age around the country, around the world, excuse me. You could see in America, it's 21 or older kind of. The draft. Women are not drafted yet, but that's changing. People are fighting for equality with that. Smoking or selling of tobacco under age 18, it is now changed in some states to 21. I think it's here in Texas at 21. The driving age discrimination. Look, in Texas, it's 16 and a half. Same where most states are. Mine was 16. I started my permit at 15 and a half. Some states have 14 and a half, I think it is, or 14 and a quarter. I can't really see that. Voting, you can vote now at 18 based on the 26th Amendment. And even in schooling, how old you need to be to finish public schooling, I think it's a minimum of the 8th grade in some states. But again, you're seeing that. Choices still matter. You guys have a choice to go to college. You can go where you want. You can be that party animal or that valedictorian that you want to work at. I don't know which one you guys are, but you can judge for yourselves. It's about equal opportunity. All of these people, whether you're white, African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, Indian American, or anybody who's missing from this photo, I tried to find a photo of all different colors and creeds and races, whatever you want to call. But it's the idea that we give each of these students the equal opportunity to succeed. But are we really doing that? That's the question you have to ask yourself. We know that differences in society are inevitable. We know that that's the case here, guys. So we have to limit the most egregious terms of types of discrimination. We only serve whites, no Spanish or Mexicans. You can see the discrimination going on, or the different drinking fountains that went on. This cannot happen, and Congress has to take a major role. That was the Japanese internment camps in World War II, or during World War II. Now, we know differences will always exist, and a policy will affect certain groups differently. So what types of discrimination, again, are lawful? We can stop your drinking age or your smoking age. We can stop women in the front lines of combat, but now that's changed. That used to happen, but we cannot have this physically disabled person not have equal access to education because they can't get up to the steps of a school where they can get equality of that education. So Congress has to ban the worst forms of discrimination. And there's LBJ working with MLK to sign the 1964 Civil Rights Act. You could see, again, newspapers where he's signing the new Voting Rights Act, and they called it Negroes back then, which is really interesting to see how we've changed some of those terms, politically correct terms today versus yesteryear. Affirmative action was now decided on, where any group who's tended to suffer from discrimination of the past, we now help them give access to them, make it easier for them to through law or policy to have a better opportunity than others who have not been discriminated against, especially in education or even employment. In college, you might sign it says race. You might say certain race. They might help you out because of affirmative action that was passed by JFK in 1961 with his executive order 10,925. You can see how they're numbered, the executive orders. But again, you could see some of this stuff have come out. The Civil Rights Act outlaws discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. But you can see it ended it in public accommodations, not necessarily in private. But again, I'm not going to read everything for you. You guys can pause this at any time and kind of look through it to understand it. So Congress's role is to put the law out there, but really, who does the most? It's the Supreme Court, it's the judges, it's the courts. They are the ones who judge if Congress has gone too far or not far enough. And it's equal protection taking place between and within the groups. That's what they have to ask. So you have this handout. You can fill this out if you want, or just listen in or skip the slide altogether. But again, these are the Supreme Court standards for classification under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Let's start out the basis, the first one. There's a rational basis. It's easy to meet. So I'm not going to read everything that you're seeing here, but the first level, this first tier, that allows us, I've already talked about this, we can discriminate based on age, tax wealth, whether you make a lot of money versus a little money, we can discriminate based on that. But examples of impermissible discrimination, if we force you to retire at 60, you can, if somebody's going to fire me now, they have to give me 15 years of, because I'm 50, 15 years of retirement in order to escape this idea that they're discriminating based on my age. So that cannot happen. So this first one is really easy. It's just easy to meet. It's rational. The courts don't make that big of a deal out of those. The next one is moderately difficult to meet. It's called intermediate scrutiny, and it's based on gender and immigration status. So the military draft or not providing Social Security to undocumented immigrants, these are permissible. These are allowed. Now with the draft, that could be changing. Examples of impermissible discrimination is automatically giving the man, because he's a male gender, the rights to somebody's will or the money left behind, where it has to be balanced between male and female. And that was the SCOTUS case, Reed v. Reed, in the 1960s. And then the last one, this is the one that's called suspect class or strict scrutiny, cannot be based on race, religion, ethnicity, or national origin. There is no example of permissible discrimination with this one. And an example of impermissible would be Jim Crow laws back in the early 1900s, or segregation that went on until the 1950s. And Brown v. Board got rid of that. But I do have to bring this up because I did I taught at LBJ for a couple of years. Great high school, some great kids that really want to learn from low socioeconomic status. And this is interesting because if you don't know, LBJ downstairs is called LBJ. There's also an upstairs school, which is called, holy smokes, LASA. I totally forgot it. LASA, which was all white and Asian and Indian upstairs, and downstairs was Black and Hispanic. And it looked like segregation in the face. They shared the library. They shared the sports schools. Well, Austin has been under fire to separate these schools completely because it looks like segregation. And again, it's something that I didn't really bring up, but when I noticed it, I was pretty alarmed in the 21st century that still went on here. But again, I really enjoyed the LBJ and my time there. Okay, so we are officially done with that today, guys. I want to make sure you understand the basics of this. This is what the Supreme Court has to do to stop any types of discrimination that go on in our country. Not just the Supreme Court, but all the courts. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Take care.